So good morning or good afternoon or good evening wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome licensed real estate specialist, CBR MCNE at Compass, Ellen J. Silverman. So welcome, Ellen. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
So, Ellen, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. Can you share with us how your journey in real estate began and what led you to where you are now?
Yeah, great question. I think every real estate agent has a story. No one really, uh, wakes up when they're 4 years old or 5 years old and says, I want to be in real estate or even in college.
Yeah.
My background is finance and banking, and I was in that industry for decades, for a very long time. My education was in math and finance. I have an MBA. I have this very structured career. And I think after the 2008 banking crisis, my work as an analyst didn't was not as interesting or exciting. Because of all the regulations that had to be put in place in banking. And
Yes.
we had auditors and SEC, regulators hovering over us at our desks. And I probably should have left the industry in 2008, but I was too addicted to my paycheck, and the so-called security of a job.
Yes.
So, so I stayed until 2016. And at that point, the bank I was working for got a new CEO, and he cleaned house, and I was let go. And I was actually very happy to be let go. Um, I had always wanted to do something entrepreneurial.
Yes.
And during my time in finance, I had bought and sold my own home several times, and I really enjoyed the process. And I'm from New York City. Um, so I really know the city very well. I'm a fourth generation New Yorker. So
Amazing. Wow.
yeah, so I think between my good financial skills, my knowledge of New York City, and my need for freedom, I finally just said, okay, it's either now or never.
Yeah.
So I got fired, and that summer I got my real estate license, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. Amazing. So, prior to you changing your career, your career path to the world of real estate, obviously you mentioned you were a seasoned Wall Street or analyst, sorry. So can you like just having gone through that process, do you think that that actually helped you in the world of real estate or transitioning into the world of real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both industries are industries of numbers and
Yes,
finance.
absolutely.
And so, yeah, so I think the financial aspects of real estate and the mathematical aspects of real estate and analyzing properties and putting them in an Excel spreadsheet, which is what I always do,
Yes.
um, that certainly were skills that I had from banking and finance that helped me with real estate. I also can talk to investors, and I'm confident of my numbers and what I'm talking about. I
Mm.
think there's a lot of emotion in real estate and a
Oh,
lot of
absolutely. It's a very emotional, like even for people that are buying, whether it's commercial or just residential, because obviously it's a big purchase. So I would imagine it would be an emotional, it would be an emotional, emotional environment.
Yeah, yeah. People get crazy when there's lots of money on the table,
Yes.
and they get irrational and emotional, and they tweak numbers, they massage numbers in crazy ways. It's unbelievable. Or they are deceptive, or they misunderstand numbers. And what I try to always do is really break it down. Here are the costs, here's the mortgage payment, here, here's the strategy going forward, here's the tax abatement, for the next 5 years. And I really just show, look, these are the numbers, this is what it's going to cost.
Yes.
So I think that is a calming effect in a lot of the time, just to see what things are going to cost. And either you're going to feel comfortable with this investment or not.
Yeah.
But you should always make a decision without emotion.
Yeah, because that's when you make the biggest mistakes, when you involve emotion.
Yes. And it's the same thing with the stock market. Never listen to the crazy news and call up your stockbroker and sell everything or buy everything
Yeah.
based on what you heard from one headline on CNBC. You
Yeah.
know, wait a day, look at these companies. Are they strong? Are they going to last? Do they have good management? Be a little rational. It's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are obviously strong in financial and analytical skills. So can you share with us more about this? And do you believe that having developed these skills from your time in Wall Street has given you a competitive edge in the real estate market? And if so, can you give us some examples?
Yeah, it definitely has. I think just understanding finance and accounting has definitely helped me over other agents. Again, because I like to see things laid out in a spreadsheet, and I just like to see everything laid out, analyzed, what all the numbers are, so so it's organized.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that I'm sorry, and you asked for an example of how this
Yeah,
helped
I
me?
mean, if you have an example.
Yeah. Um, I don't have a specific example, but I think that I provide good research and analysis to my clients as my service to them.
Yes.
And and that's what I bring. I don't I don't really know what other agents bring. I mean, some of them are quite visible. You see
Yes.
them on social media and they're fantastic salespeople. Um, and that's terrific. People know them, and that's half the battle, being known. But I I think that just my research and numbers approach to things is what I bring and what has always helped me with every client.
So with that being said, what have been some of your biggest lessons within your career? And you probably had multiple, but is there one that particularly stands out for you?
I think I've learned more about business in the last 8 years or 9 years that I have in real estate than I did in banking.
Yes,
Um, I think in Wall Street, certainly at the time I was there, you just had to do your job really well and meet your deadlines and be very fast with
yes,
news and numbers and warning clients of the market. And I think I was just very much nose to the grindstone, and you get in early, you sit at your desk, you do your job, you meet your deadline, and that's it. And there's not a great deal of people skills involved in that. I mean, of course, you have to behave professionally, of course, but a lot of the skills that I need in real estate, I didn't develop in banking.
yes,
Um, so I think you need to be able to really listen to your client and be empathetic and
yes.
understand where they're coming from. And that's a skill that I have developed over these 9 years, is the people aspects, treating people as humans with making a huge investment,
Yes.
and having a great deal of empathy in that regard.
Yeah,
When I
absolutely.
was in Wall Street, I was on the investment banking side. I wasn't in retail, I wasn't dealing with day-to-day people investing in the stock market. It was more investment banking and looking at companies.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was really not involved in a lot of crazy emotional roller coasters.
Yeah. And then you obviously went into dealing with the emotional side when people, like you say, are buying their first home or investing a lot of money in real estate. So I'm sure there's many lessons from both sides.
Yeah, yeah.
So you were born and raised in Manhattan, which you obviously mentioned, and you went on to graduate from Carnegie Mellon University with a BS in Business Administration and Mathematics, as well as an MBA from Zicklin School of Business. So do you believe that this also gave you an advantage in your industry? And if so, can you share with us more about this?
Wow, that's quite a question. Um,
Well, it's an incredible achievement. I mean, that's
oh,
really, yeah,
oh,
amazing.
thank you. Well, I went to a really tough prep school here in the city, and I think that prepared me more for college than anything else. Just, the discipline, and we got so much homework, and they were, worried about where we were going to college in ninth grade. And there was a lot of pressure on us in high school to perform. So that helped me a great deal in college and graduate school. I think at the time, going to Carnegie Mellon and studying finance and math, and as well as getting the MBA, helped me really more with Wall Street and finance than it did real estate. Um,
Yes.
I think, real estate, everybody, there's so many backgrounds that come to real estate. There's actors, there's teachers, there's people in the garment center. There are people with no college education whatsoever,
Mm.
but they've got a lot of drive
Yes.
and a lot of chutzpah,
Yeah.
and a lot of salesmanship that they don't teach you that in an MBA program.
No. So, yeah, so I mean, it's more like I guess you learn that more on the ground when you're actually dealing with that than, at colleges or institutions.
Yeah. And when I went to college, there were no courses in, diplomacy, political correctness, diversity, empathy. I mean, now I think a lot of the business schools are bringing in more, humanitarian uh oriented courses for
Yeah.
people, but when I went, forget about it.
No, exactly. So the real estate market is a highly competitive and cutthroat industry, especially in cities like New York. So firstly, how would you say this has changed over the years that you have been in the industry?
Mm. Yeah,
Because New
when
York is a tough city. Like you really have to be,
yeah. Well, New York can be a tough city, but we also have so much to offer.
yes,
There's millions of neighborhoods. Not everything is Billionaires Row or
yeah,
Upper East Side. There's the Bronx, there's Brooklyn, there's Queens. There's so many emerging neighborhoods, and we're also 70% rental. Everyone forgets
mm,
we are a rental transitory city. People coming in and people going out. And that means apartments are turning over all the time. So
yes,
I think as fast-paced and crazy as New York can be, it also offers incredible opportunity for everyone, no matter who you are.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. And when I started real estate, everybody was saying, "Oh my God, Ellen, it's so cutthroat. Everyone's gonna rob your database. Everyone's gonna look over your shoulder. Everyone's gonna steal all your clients." And I'm like, what clients? I didn't even have clients when I started.
Yeah,
And there's so much noise about the industry. Um, I have not, I mean, look, you're going to get into situations with other brokers and clients, and there's going to be drama, but that's not every day.
no,
And it happens occasionally, okay, and you just deal with it.
mm,
I try to take the high road as much as I can and be a diplomat and try not to overreact. Sometimes I don't always adhere to that.
yeah. Well,
And I
I
have
mean, you're
my
human,
days,
right? I mean,
you know,
those things are gonna occur. So I guess you
nobody's
just take it in
perfect.
your stride.
Yeah. And, I think at the end of the day, we all want to make deals. And I try to always collaborate with the other broker on the other side of a deal. And, I don't really want to think about all the competition. I just want to focus on what do I have to do day to day.
Yeah,
That's it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So there've been many changes with the real estate market within the last 2 years, making it tougher for brokers and agents with maybe law changes and different things happening. So can you share with us more about this? And how have you had to adapt and pivot to be able to stay in this industry?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm really not thrilled with these new laws. It is making our job more difficult. I mean, the major one is ha getting our buyers to sign buyers brokers contracts. In New York, we never had to do that before.
Mm,
When I worked with a buyer, my services were free and I got paid at the closing. And
mm,
hopefully that buyer was happy with me and stayed with me and we would do a deal. Now I have to ask buyers, some of which I don't know very well, listen, these are my services, and now you have to adhere to signing a contract for my commission so I get paid. And it's a new skill that I have to develop, and I have to learn to ask for this now, and
mm.
I have to step up what I offer, and
Yes.
it can't be free anymore. For
Yeah.
buyers, for buyers. For
Yes.
sellers, it's easier. Um,
Okay.
and this is all to aid in transparency of commission. So if the buyer knows what I'm making, the seller knows what I'm making, everybody knows what everybody's making. And
Okay.
that was the motivation behind this new rule.
So, what would you say makes you different to other people? I don't want to use the word competitor, but to others in the industry in order to sustain such a long career in this industry?
Yeah. Um, um, what makes me different?
Yeah.
I think I'm a straight shooter.
Which
I
is really the best way to be, actually, is just to be straightforward.
yeah, I'm not a pushy broker. I'm not going to push something that a buyer doesn't like. I do my homework, I do my research. I try to answer questions as quickly as I can. I'm service oriented and I know the city well.
Yes.
I can really give a good opinion on a neighborhood or a certain street or a certain block or a certain, even a subway station. Is that a good subway to come and go at night?
Yes.
Certainly, my knowledge of the city is definitely an added value that I bring.
Amazing. So, what would you say again have been some of your biggest career highlights? And again, you probably had multiple, but is there one that particularly stands out for you?
Um, Not one. I think getting referrals is the best compliment, and I have gotten referrals from clients from 6 or 7 years ago.
That's
I have,
amazing.
yeah, and I've worked with a lot of foreign investors in overseas in Asia, and some of these people speak English perfectly, and it's easy to do a transaction, and sometimes there is a language barrier, and I have to just ask for things in a very simple manner. Sometimes I have to show uh, the computer platform and where to do signatures or what things mean, and explain things and be more diligent in my explanation and education on what New York real estate is about.
Well, that's great because also then the client also is you're actually nurturing that relationship and you're paying attention a lot more to the details. So I think that's brilliant. So you also have a passion and a keen eye for interior design and staging. So can you share with us more about this and how this has given you an advantage in real estate and helped you in selling?
Yeah. Well, I grew up with my mom who loved to decorate and was always shopping. She loved clothes, she loved to decorate, she loved to look at furniture and wallpaper, and she loved to repaint her apartment a million times. So I kind of grew up in this family of women who were very creative and always were looking and shopping and looking at designers. And so that I think that had an effect on me. And I I kind of developed their sense of style and taste into my own. Um, and at one point, I even was thinking about doing staging with real estate, but doing both at the same time was absolutely crazy. It's
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
couldn't do both.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy. And it's a different skill set and a different mindset, and I just couldn't do it. But uh so I kind of grew up with this, in a family that has a lot of style.
Yes.
Um, and now, I see so many apartments all the time that I get a good sense if it's well constructed, if the finishes are luxurious, if it's beautifully designed, if the layout is good, what are the windows like? You start to develop a sense of um, is this a good apartment or not? Does it have shoddy construction? I can tell pretty immediately if something isn't built properly or it was built quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with that, as a renter, a buyer, and a seller personally, as you mentioned right in early in the interview, you understand the ebbs and flows of the market. So please tell us more about this and how this has also given you an advantage from your own experience of buying, selling, and renting.
Yeah. I always had a good sense of neighborhoods and what was going to take off. I don't know where I got this from. I think it's just growing up as a city kid. I've always lived in apartments. I've always lived in Manhattan. I was always walking and taking the subway. I think you just develop this as a
Yes.
kid. And um, I think I just kind of have a sense of, what is going to appreciate and where the development is going to go before it explodes. I did that myself. In my first apartment, I bought way uptown in Manhattan, and everybody thought I was crazy because the neighborhood was very isolated. It wasn't popular. There wasn't a lot of, you know, restaurants around. But I kept saying, this is a neighborhood that has a 212 area code. That at the time, that was a big deal to have
Yes.
that 212 area code. And I bought my first apartment for $40,000. And
Wow.
yeah,
Amazing.
and lo and behold, I was there about 9 years and it did appreciate and I sold it for about 300. And
Gee, that's very impressive. Wow.
yeah, but I think I've always been willing to go into neighborhoods that were not that popular.
Yes.
So what I tell now to first-time buyers is maybe you can't afford Midtown Manhattan, but have you considered Queens? There are areas in Queens now that are taking off that are just absolutely gorgeous.
Mm.
And, I think it's just being open to other neighborhoods and being patient on price appreciation because things don't appreciate overnight.
No.
Take time.
Exactly. And then also like if those areas are being upgraded, then obviously it's going to increase the value overall over a period of time. So
Absolutely. You're going to get the Starbucks, you're going to get the Whole Foods. As soon as a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's moves in, the real estate values go up.
yes.
So, is it near a subway? Are there, dry cleaners and restaurants and delis, or bodegas or whatever? And you see this, I've seen it happen a million times all over New York City.
Right, yeah, amazing. So with that, and you did touch on this briefly earlier, but you have clients from all over the world, especially from an investment perspective. So can you share with us more about this and how you've mastered and built the relationships you need while working with different cultures, which you obviously briefly touched on, but I'm sure there's multiple cultures or, like you were saying, language barriers and ways in which are different. So, how have you mastered that?
Yeah. Well, everybody has their viewpoint about New York
Yeah,
City real estate and how to value things and what things cost. And then there's trying to understand why are there so many documents and why do I need to justify where my down payment is coming from and why do I have to send you a personal reference letter? What the hell is this? I've got $10 million in the bank. Isn't that good enough for you? There's
yeah,
a lot of things. And I think it's just a matter of really being patient and explaining multiple times and doing an email and explaining it in writing and then maybe explaining it again and putting, if they're communicating on WhatsApp, you got to communicate on WhatsApp.
yes,
And sometimes it takes 4 to 5 to 6 times to ask for something or explain something until it finally sinks in.
yeah.
So I think the only way to deal with people that are new to New York is just constant education and being patient and being nice about it. Because there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of suspicion and paranoia and
Mm.
um, misunderstanding. And and then they get suspicious of me. Who the hell is Ellen to ask me for,
Yeah.
why do I
Meantime,
need a,
it's just the rules and the laws within that city or
yeah,
state. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And especially people that are very wealthy and very, very busy and don't have time for this nonsense.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
want this give me that 20 million apartment, please, Ellen. You should be
Yeah, yeah,
happy.
here's the money. Just give it to me.
Here it is. And then there are people that don't want to show you all their money.
Yeah,
So, so I always say, look, you don't have to show me everything. Just show me enough
yes,
to get this deal done. I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know because it'll affect my judgment.
yes,
Say that. But it does. If I know I'm dealing with someone worth $1 billion, that's going to change my view. It's going to it'll affect me a little bit. I'll think, gee, I could have sold them, 2 floors of
yeah,
Robert Stern Tower at 220 Central Park South. Geez, Ellen, why didn't
yeah,
right?
exactly. But that leads me to the final question. So, what are the three key pieces of advice you would give to those who are looking to pursue a similar career? And what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered?
Oh my God. Um, okay, my advice for real estate people, join a really good firm, a major firm in New York City. Learn as much as you can the first 6 months. You're probably not going to be making a lot of money in the beginning. Um, Develop relationships with your friends, family, friends of friends, anyone you can. Maybe start in the rental market. There's nothing wrong with a rental at all. We're a big rental city. And, stay consistent. Treat real estate like your day job or a
Yes,
day job. Treat it like a business, at least 9 to 6 every day.
yes,
And
absolutely.
and also, unfortunately, be prepared to work at least one day of the weekend.
Yes.
Um, that's not fun, but it's kind of when people look at apartments.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they don't have time during the week, so they need to be able to access it on the weekends.
yeah, yeah. Gosh, and my legacy. Wow. Too young to ask to think about that. But I guess I would say to young people today, follow your passion. There is no job security. It's
Mm.
getting less and less. I grew up, with parents and family members with the 1950s mentality of you work for a company, you work for them 50 years, you get your gold star or your
Yeah,
watch,
not
and
anymore.
retire and you go to Florida or wherever you go.
Yeah.
But those days are over. We're living in an age where people are doing multiple things. We have technology supporting us every inch of the way. So you might as well do something you like and you feel strongly about, and don't give up. Just don't give up. Follow your dream.
No, thank you. That is amazing. So, if people would like to get in touch with you, Ellen, what are the best platforms to do so?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Ellen J. Silverman, or my website is ellenjsilverman.com, or just go to compass.com and click in Ellen J. Silverman and you'll find me on Compass. Uh, yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully, we can have you back in the future to see where you are in your real estate journey. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.